Hi there, welcome to APTOS Wyckoff Technical Analysis session. So 2 weeks ago we talked about the prolonged accumulation and test after test after test for APTOS. But this week, coincidentally, right before I conduct this session, APTOS has made some weird moves in the daily time frame. So let's quickly find out and dive straight into the chart. As usual, we look at the weekly first because that's where it governs what can happen in the daily. So give a little bit of patience, we'll look at a weird move very quickly in just a few minutes. So 2 weeks ago we put in this tag. I say, are we going towards a new sign of strength? Obviously, it did not happen in like these 2 weeks time. So instead it demonstrated a kind of a downtrend over here, heading towards the test level. However, if we look at this, if I expand this, it looks like there's some kind of triangular pattern forming. If I switch it to take a look, yeah, so some people would say they may draw a line, look at it and say, it's like a lower low happening, and maybe it's a descending triangle. Is APTOS going to fall further? So that's November 2025 at the tip, excluding this little outlier tip or dip. So is it going to the downside? That's going to like somewhere that we have seen back in 2022. While that's a possibility, we can't rule that out completely. Let's draw a line over here. Anything can happen in today's world, so let's not exclude any possibility because of our subjective preference. Yeah, that's the biggest risk to ourselves, it's our own brains. So okay, here that's the line extended from 2022. Basically it was the low point back then before the climb or the distribution cycle happened back in 2023. So it's a good reference point or a very strong support over here below the red key level of $4.8. Now that it's getting near towards this tip and being suppressed under the red key level, people would worry, is it going to come back down to $3.5 instead of finishing the accumulation cycle and head towards the buying climax. So I'm trying to make a rough or wild guess here. When I turn this on, this Bollinger Band Keltner squeeze, it indicates that since June, well actually even earlier, maybe end of May, that a squeeze is happening. A squeeze means the purple lines got very close to or even inside the orange lines, as in this case. So when the squeeze happens, that means a force is gathering. This force is going to push the price for a bigger move, either towards the upside or downside. So there's no definitive answer. This indicator does not tell us where it's heading, just a big swing. So let me give an example here. A lot of times you can switch this on in your own charts because it's free. When the price is on the lower half of the channel, it tends to swing towards the upside. But what happened subsequently, it immediately fell back towards the other side of the channel. So that's why we have to always combine some other patterns like Wyckoff or candlesticks. So this indicator is a good reference because every time it has a squeeze, there must be some big swings following. Just that it's not only indicating towards the upside, so it can have a squeeze and swing towards the downside. So be careful when you use this, and don't think when the squeeze happened, it's always going to bring the price up. So back to here. So the squeeze is definitely happening. The price is entering the tip of the triangle very soon, in less than 2 months time. Let me extend this long-term playground zone all the way to here, just not blocking the prices, the key levels. Ideally, if it is really finishing the accumulation cycle, it should break towards this side to show us at least a challenge to the same level where the sign of strength was back in May, or like something look like what happened in mid-July, instead of continuing the trend along this triangle. So hopefully it breaks out soon, instead of really heading to this side and then eventually break towards the downside, much like the definition of candlestick pattern analysis of a descending triangle. So having said that, let's put in this. So I say this maybe 20-25%. This side, let's say 75%. While we are kind of in this stage, but I don't really see that happening at a level where it should be, because if it's back up or last point of support, it should be happening somewhere higher, closer to the orange key level of 6.18. So sometimes it is what it is. It can accumulate at a lower level and then just pump without much happening at the higher side. So that's what happened back in September last year. It come back for a low point and then immediately it started to climb. Whereas back in 2023, after the sign of strength, it came back to a point where it traded a little bit sideways. That's what I was referring to. So somewhere close to or above sign of strength as the last point of support or backup, building the strength towards the push. So there are different scenarios under the Wyckoff pattern. So where we are now, while it's at a low point, similar to what happened back in September 2024, it doesn't mean it can't start jumping from that point and go all the way towards a new distribution cycle. It's just exhibiting different behaviors. So I think next time when I come back, this is going to be a totally different picture, because I've changed the schedule. So it's APTOS is not in the regular schedule. So if you like me to cover this, or at least push it to the trending slots that I've assigned, remember to either press the like or leave a comment. So going to the daily chart here, very busy chart, yeah. Let me turn these or keep these just for weekly, because it is just looking way too busy in the daily chart. So let's just set them at the weekly interval. So to the daily, previously we've drawn this trend line and the price has kind of fallen below this. So if I adjust it and make it towards the tip of the candle wicks, we can see it's trying to, or the bulls are trying to push the price back to where this line is. So technically speaking, if today's candle with roughly about 5 hours left closes outside, much like what happened on Monday, it is not a positive sign for the bulls, but it's not pessimistic either. That's where we come to the weird move I mentioned in the title. If you look down, you see these two long red bars. Those two red volume bars may scare some people, saying, oh my god, that's a lot of selling going on. Instead, that's not the case. We have very short candlestick bodies. Even the cross or the pin yesterday inverted pin over here, kind of, it means a lot of change of hands, much higher than what we had over the past 2 weeks basically, or even 3 weeks. So that was about 270k. Previous 2-3 weeks average was only about 50-55k, so almost 5 times higher than the previous times. So this weird move may be telling us the final collection of APTOS is near finish, and that's when the big swing is about to come. So consider it like the final shakeout, where the big guys are trying to scare away the small fishes before they move big towards wherever they want to push the price to. So here I can draw a line, an additional line, just to check what's happening. So maybe not that far, just here. Again, there's a pennant going on. Let's change this line as well, just to make it easier to see. So assuming what's happening now, based on the 2 long wicks earlier. So let me extend this further. This wick and this wick. So this, a mild higher lows, and then this line over here basically is trapping the top edge of the or the top of the wick of the candles. The top tip was the word I was looking for. So if I make it real tight, this crosses in 5 days. So what does that mean? It means probably in the next 2-3 days, maybe over the weekend or Monday, a breakout has to happen. So ideally it's going to happen towards the upside, because this pennant is a bit tricky. So it's not like, what I want to say is not level. So this is a level pennant, so it doesn't indicate where it's heading. This one looks a bit like a descending wedge. So instead of pennant, it looks like a descending wedge, but it's just kind of flat as well. So that's why I was like, that's funny. So if it's really a descending wedge, what happens is that's in candlestick pattern analysis textbook definition, it's like a bullish sign. Hopefully that's the case for APTOS. So that's another indication pointing to, like, telling us where the direction is more likely to go. So if that's the case, that means these prolonged tests after test after test, see how many we have gone through after the selling climax back in March this year. It already had a second test back in April, and then a higher level test, well actually 2 tests, let's consider just one, it's pretty busy over here, in May. So every single month, and then here early June, and eventually a spring late June. So there has been consistent test after test every beginning of the month, including this month. So you see here, right, for beginning of April, beginning of May, beginning of June, beginning of July, beginning of August, and then beginning of September. Every single month for past 6 months, we have gone through test after test. And now eventually it's getting to a point where it finally has to make a move. So ideal or bullish scenario is at least we see one more sign of strength. The third one we have since the automatic rally back in March. So we had one in May and then another one in July. So basically skipping months. You see, right? That's odd months. March we had the automatic rally. May we had the mid-May we had this sign of strength. Mid-July sign of strength again, and mid-September it seems like another one is coming. So while it's too early to declare where is it going to heading to a new distribution cycle, like is the PSY near, maybe it's too early to tell. At least it seems like when we get into mid-September, another jump towards a new sign of strength is happening, and that may eventually lead to a backup or last point of support before it jump to the PSY. So let me borrow this tag over here and see whether it's really going to happen after this jump around mid-September, just to cross-check the weekly time frame. If it's, yeah, basically the line that I've drawn here, we are getting very close to the tip of this triangle over here. So a smaller triangle before the bigger one. Hopefully it's going to head to the upside, especially for those who have already placed in their orders. But always remember what I put here. Even if it's 70 or 95% chance towards the upside, don't forget your stop loss, because there's always scenarios, even 1% chance that can happen. Whether people call that black swan event or whatever name they want to name it, the outlier events that nobody knows is happening. So stay safe. Wish you